Ah, crap. I'm still here. Yeah.
How's it hanging, Professor?
Oh, it's you rat. I should have known. Get me down from here, you big-eared bastard.
You know, you've got a very negative attitude. All you do is criticize and belittle my good-natured company.
Blow it out your ass. Your mega corporation is trying to get a monopoly on all media, and you're watering down culture as a whole. In summary, go fuck yourself.
Oh boy, I think you need a friend to help you with your bad attitude. I have just the person for you. Send in the gimp!
The what? Jesus!
I'll leave you two to get acquainted. Kathleen Kennedy sends her regards.
So this is how it ends for me. Buggered to death by a Disney gimp. I can't go out like this. Hey you, Gimpy, I want to strike a bargain. Let me do one last review for the fans I love so dear. And then, afterwards, when you're having your wicked way with me, I'll call you Daddy the whole time. Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you? Now, get me down from here. The blood is rushing to my head.
Well, here we are. At the end of a trilogy. At the end of a legacy. And the end of a saga. Thank fuck! The Rise of Skywalker would be the end of Disney's trilogy, and a big middle finger for Star Wars fans. Even after the miscarriage that was The Last Jedi, there were many fans who wanted to watch the next installment, not because they wanted to see a fulfilling ending, but because they wanted to see how much it sucked. For me, it was like revisiting a car crash. You didn't want to return to the catastrophe, but you had to go so you could identify the bodies and get some closure. With the crater left behind by Rian Johnson's dirty bomb that was The Last Jedi, director J.J. Abrams had the unenviable task of trying to do damage control and give a conclusion to this troubled trilogy. Die-hard fans hoped they would finally get answers to all their questions. Who was Snoke? Who were Rey's parents? How did the First Order become so powerful? And what does the Rise of Skywalker mean?
I think the Rise of Skywalker, it doesn't answer anything.
Oh, thanks for clearing that up, Kathy. What audience members got wasn't a fulfilling conclusion to the trilogy, but a Tabasco enema, courtesy of JJ and Disney. Let's begin. As with any Star Wars film, you have the opening crawl, but this one was written by someone with brain damage. The dead speak?
Never underestimate a droid.
No, not that dead person. We get some garbled exposition, but also the big reveal is spoiled just a few seconds in. The Emperor is alive. You couldn't wait just 5 minutes to reveal that? Show don't tell is the cornerstone of cinema, you hacks. Already, we can see the shitty caliber of film we're going to experience. It would be nice if we could hear the late Emperor's broadcast. Apparently we could. In Fortnite, as part of some weird promotion. Not everyone is a 12-year-old dabbing zoomer, so we miss out on a crucial plot element. Why can't we see people's reactions to turning on the radio and hearing DJ Palpatine dropping his latest hit?
To all you beta haters out there, we'll blow your planet up. We got Death Star, we got Death Star, we got Death Star, we got Death Star.
The ambassador of Hot Topic, Kylo, is back and more determined than ever. With angst in his pants and lightsaber in hand, he acquires a special map to the Emperor's hidden fortress of doom. There is a glut of MacGuffins like this, crammed into the film, as JJ struggles to write himself out of this train wreck. Follow this thing, follow this thing, follow this thing that helps the rebels follow this thing. Kylo travels to the Emperor's dingy retirement home on some planet called Exegol, and we see the old fruit auditioning for The Walking Dead. Ah, yes, this contrivance. The Emperor is back from the dead because JJ can only play the nostalgia card to get people interested in these films. Anakin and Luke Skywalker, your fighting and sacrifices have been undone. You accomplished nothing. Sorry, gentlemen, fuck finality. Nostalgia is all that matters. Also, we have these pickled Snokes floating about. The Emperor says he made them, apparently, to fill in for him. I suppose you need a hobby in isolation, but this only raises more questions. Why did you make Snokes? How do you control them? What are they made of? Is it pork jerky? So that's the Snoke mystery explained. It's quickly hand-waved. Get used to things being explained like this, because it happens a lot in this cinematic turd. Palpatine then unleashes a swarm of Imperial destroyers from under the planet's icy surface. It may look dramatic when they rise, but it's very impractical and nonsensical. Why bury these ships under tons of ice? Wouldn't that damage the ships and equipment? All those millions of poor stormtroopers who have to go out and de-ice all these fucking things now because you had to be theatrical. Emperor Palpatine brokers a deal with Kylo. Unlimited power in exchange for Little Miss Floater. Meanwhile, the Resistance lads swing by a space iceberg for some leaked intelligence from the Empire and a spot of dogfighting with the First Order. Once again, the Millennium Falcon gets chased by TIE fighters through a complex structure. We see the Falcon diving, weaving, and shooting like the previous films before it. And it's all so tedious now. JJ tries to jolt a bit of life into this overdone set piece by having the Falcon do mini hyperspace jumps. That's a new gimmick, but not thrilling enough to stop me from slipping into a boredom coma. Speaking of, Rey for Pay Daisy Ridley is levitating using the power of her smug self-satisfaction. She's trying to contact dead Jedi for guidance, but they won't return her calls. Thankfully, one deceased person kept in touch. Bring out your dead! Carrie Fisher is back as B-roll footage from The Force Awakens, edited to look new. Most of the time her video ghost just stands there, or we see the back of her head. Was it really necessary to implement the late Carrie Fisher, or did JJ need that extra nostalgia boost? She is overseeing Rey's training. Not that Rey needs it. What does she need to learn? She can use a lightsaber, has telekinesis, speaks Wookiee, speaks droid, can pilot and shoot flawlessly, has all the Jedi powers, can defeat a Sith apprentice, has never lost an appendage or even got a battle scar. Put bluntly, she's God. Her plot armor is the most powerful in the galaxy. And once you realize this, her character becomes boring because you know she'll never face any real hardship. After doing death-defying stunts and being a big show-off, it's time for other characters to be in the spotlight for a change. Poe and co. return to give the bad news that the Emperor is alive, which they'd know if they had a radio turned on.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Poe's delivery of this line mirrors the audience's own disinterest and confusion. From the spy intel, it seems that the Empire, First Order, Last Order, whatever, has been biding its time and has amassed a massive fleet to curb-stomp the rebels. All is lost. Luckily, Rey has been reading those boring old Jedi books that Luke and Yoda thought of as nothing more than kindling. Fortunately for the rebels, there's a chapter on plot devices that states they need a Wayfinder doodad to locate the baddie base. That's their mission now. They form a crew and head out to find clues to its whereabouts. Also, what happened to Rose Tycho? That's the wrong clip.
Period blood can be used to stop forest fires.
Better? Anyway, Rose serves as a good example of JJ and his ilk not knowing what to do with the leftovers from Ruin Johnson's The Last Jedi. Can't blame the writers underutilizing her. She wasn't exactly a fan favorite. Just look at these memes of her. Now, don't laugh at these. That's mean. Don't laugh. You certainly shouldn't laugh at this next one. Despite getting a decent amount of screen time in The Last Jedi, she only gets as much, if not less, than Carrie Fisher's B-roll. Also, her passionate romance with Finn has dried up for some reason, even though in the previous film she would die for him. Sorry, Miss Tran, this is the Daisy Ridley show, and you are taking time away from her scenes. Meanwhile, Kylo is putting his iconic helmet back together, since he broke it when he had a tantrum in The Last Jedi. For all you over-analyzing pseudo-intellectuals watching this scene, it's visually symbolic of JJ picking up the pieces after Rian Johnson's fuck-up. Not sure why there is a space monkey there. At this point, I'm not even surprised by it. Okay, whatever. That's Rise of Skywalker for you. Ah, the Knights of Ren. Who are they, JJ? Explain this mystery you set up from The Force Awakens. They are the Knights of Ren. They wear different outfits and fight rebels. Thanks for nothing, JJ. After dramatically giving head to all his generals, Kylo tells them he suspects a spy in their ranks. It's Hux, obviously. Kylo tells his goons that the Emperor is now everyone's wrinkly sugar daddy, and to keep them all sweet, he's given them supercharged destroyers. We're also introduced to General Pride, played by Richard E. Grant. Oh, from With Nail and I to this. What a step down.
I'm gonna be a star!
It's time for generic Star Wars desert planet number 3002. It is here the Rey Resistance go to an alien Burning Man festival to harass the locals for information and anal beads. Kylo then taunts Rey through Force FaceTime, and the writers use this as a chance to show off a powerful new Force ability, which is object teleportation with seemingly unlimited range. A gripe I have with the Disney trilogy is the addition of Force powers that are gimmicky and contrived. It comes off as jarring because these new superpowers aren't in the old movies and are thrown out there in a spur-of-the-moment kind of way. Now, in the original films, Force powers were used to get out of sticky situations, but they were quite limited. At most, Jedi seemed to have enhanced reflexes and psychic powers. Even then, it was a struggle to move objects, but rewarding when Luke actually did accomplish something. And not every struggle could be solved with a Jedi. Now, Jedi can fly and breathe in space, project illusions of themselves, teleport items, use abilities from beyond the grave, heal any wound, and do superhero jumps. With abilities this overpowered, it opens the door to cheap writing where characters can essentially magic away their problems. It looks cinematic, though. The grander the powers, the grander the spectacle, even if it makes plot holes or makes characters look like they came straight out of a video game. The First Order is on to Rey and her entourage, but they get help from a callback. Fatso Calrissian has returned, and it's apparent characters from the original trilogy are being dragged back to drum up any semblance of interest for the bored fans. After Lando determines that the gang are neither food nor sex, he sends them off into the desert to find clues. Thus begins a high-speed desert chase. Ugh, it's making me remember the pod racing from the prequels. Rey is a crack shot with a blaster, so the gang is not hindered by flying stormtroopers. Quicksand, on the other hand, fucks them rigid, and they all die. Praise the Lord! Rey has been killed off! Sam, play my song!
Ding dong, the witch is dead. Witch, oh witch, the wicked witch. Ding dong.
Ah, bollocks, they're alive. And as an added bonus, the cave holds a plot central item that they wouldn't have found otherwise. Well, fuck me till I fart. How fortunate. What a well-written convenience. You're not even trying anymore, are you, JJ? It's a Sith dagger that's very special because not only does it stab people, but it has coordinates carved into it. Have the Sith not heard of pen and paper? Does everything have to be edgy and evil for the hell of it? C-3PO actually proposes the idea that he isn't a useless reference to the old films, but that he can read the language on the dagger, although it later requires some tinkering of his noggin to do so. Enough talk, droid. Rey needs more screen time. An alien snake shows up to vor them to death, but is quickly tamed by Rey. We can now add Snake Charmer to her ever-growing list of credentials. As she uses Force Heal on Mr. Slithers, we get more Daisy Ridley world-class acting. Eyes wide, mouth agape. I swear, every predicament in this trilogy is solved with Rey staring blankly until it dawns on her to use one of her many powers. How she got the lead role in the first place, I have no idea. What a completely unrelated picture. They find the ship of the dagger owner that somehow survived after 20 years and hasn't broken down or been stolen. Their good fortune has run out, though, as the Empire has tracked them down by using Wikipedia to find the source of that cheap necklace Kylo Force teleported. Rey wanders off to gawp some more at impending danger. Close your mouth! I know the casting director told you otherwise, but come on! Kylo plays chicken with Rey by trying to run her over instead of using the guns on his ship. She's okay. She can do video game backflips. While these fuckers are prattling about, Chewbacca gets captured by the Empire and is about to be shipped off to waterboarding land. Rey uses the power of snarling teeth and Force energy to try and ground him. Kylo fights back and a forced tug of war starts, where they both grimace like they're trying to pop their skulls out of their face. Until Rey shows off another Force power that she now has. She sends 1 million volts Chewbacca's way and blows up the pube creature. To be fair, I did find this impactful. Could it be that Rey fucked up? She was too powerful for her own good? She's actually developed a flaw? Nah, just kidding. It's a fake out. Chewbacca is fine. He was on a different transport ship. Rey can do no wrong. Why bother having stakes and tension at all? Booby and the gang hightail it to Kijimi to find a robotics expert to jailbreak C-3PO's brain so he can decipher the dagger. The guy in question is this thing, Babu Frick. It's another patented Disney Star Wars alien, which many have noticed have very little diversity, as they're all earth-toned creatures with squinty bum eyes. Even robots aren't spared this creative bankruptcy. A hairdryer on wheels? It's bad enough that BB-8 is basically a testicle with a processor, but this is just lazy design and also an unnecessary character. And this is another problem with The Rise of Skywalker. New characters are introduced and have minuscule character development. Like this lady, Claude the Foreskin Monster, and Power Ranger reject Zori Bliss, a pointless character who only exists to give her ex-boyfriend Poe a plot device. Could have done more with the actress. We don't even see her without her helmet.
She's not a bad-looking lady either. I wouldn't mind drinking her filthy bathwater. What? Don't look at me like that. Oh, I'm the weirdo. I can literally smell the sex grease on you.
This mentally challenged tiny Turkish man gets to work, but it's a sad moment, as C-3PO's brain will be wiped in the tinkering process. Essentially, he's going to die. Oh no.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir, at my friends.
You must have robot dementia. You've hardly got any rapport with these cretins. You've had one escapade so far with them, and you've done bugger all for most of this new trilogy. The most you've had as a character arc was changing the colour of your arm. Fuck it. Wipe his memory, put him out of his misery. Let him forget this shit show. Screw it. Wipe mine while you're at it. Because the Sith language is evil, C-3PO gets the cliched blood-red evil robot eyes. Although they could be red for other reasons. The dagger is deciphered, but requires more planet hopping to acquire the Wayfinder. Now C-3PO has amnesia and is essentially a blank slate. Nope, just another fake-out. R2-D2 kept a backup of his memory and personality. Who needs consequences? Kylo's ship shows up in orbit, and suddenly Rey can now sense Chewbacca's life. She couldn't during forced tug of war? Whatever. It's a contrived reason for Rey and the gang to get on the Star Destroyer to slaughter stormtroopers in the dozens. I mean, it's not like they're ordinary people forced into service. Hooray for the Resistance? While freeing Chewbacca, Poe and Finn get overwhelmed with stormtroopers. The trio are about to be executed, but the seriousness of the scene is undermined with quirky quipping. Suddenly, Hux turns on his men.
I'm the spy.
No shit! You're the only First Order member to survive the previous films. Mystery solved, move along. Meanwhile, Rey is looking for the Sith dagger, which they still need, and Kylo uses this time to harass her forcefully. They fight each other mentally, and random items teleport about. Why the Helmet of Pandering randomly teleported to Kylo, I do not know. As the rest of the group take back the impounded Millennium Falcon, Kylo returns to his Star Destroyer to drop the big reveal on Rey. She is not a nobody. She is the granddaughter of Emperor Palpatine! Of course she is. When did Palpatine have time to sire a child? And who's his Sith baby mama? He was no spring chicken in the prequels, so he was probably shooting blanks at that point, and I have terrible mental images of him doing the dirty after getting a scrotum facelift. I always assumed his campness and eagerness to spend time with an effeminate young man as a sign of being a, confirmed bachelor? But fuck it, it's apparently cloning stuff, maybe, whatever. Don't think, eat popcorn. The Millennium Falcon farts away stormtroopers, and Rey escapes with the crew to the planet Endor. It is here there are allies, but also we get the remains of the Death Star. JJ, if you're just relying on nostalgia, why not make a 2-hour-long photo album of visuals from the old films? Remember this? Remember? Remember the original trilogy when Star Wars was good? A third of the Death Star survived being completely disintegrated, and the contrivance dagger is designed to pinpoint the location of the Wayfinder on it. JJ, are you ripping off the Goonies? That's where One-Eyed Willy buried his gold. This is stupid. If you come at the structure from a different angle, or parts of it have collapsed from wear and tear or weathering, then the dagger is useless. While on Endor, Finn hints at being Force-sensitive, but nothing comes of it, other than enhanced gut feelings. That's too much character development, and we need more Rey scenes. Rey skillfully sails to the Death Star to get us to the next set piece. Remember the Emperor's throne room? Apparently, it had a secret antechamber housing the Wayfinder, even though that room never existed on the Death Star, but ignore that. Inside, Rey gets a spooky vision of herself as a demon. That's the most I've seen Daisy Ridley act, and half of it was computer-generated. Kylo has tracked her down, and again asks her to join the baddies. She refuses, so Rey and Kylo have another boring fight, which we all know Rey will win because she does every bloody time. To give Rey an advantage, Leia uses her powers to distract Kylo across the galaxy by whispering his real name, and then she dies of boredom. This allows Rey to take a cheap shot at Kylo. You murderer! Nope, can't have bad consequences. So Rey uses Force Heal on Kylo's pocket pussy chest wound. Then she flounces off in a tizzy to Luke's Hermit Island. Fuck off, porgs. Kylo is left thinking, what the fuck? A feeling that amplifies when a motivational ghost of his late father shows up. But it's not a ghost, it's a memory, apparently. Huh? Where is this memory from? I guess Kylo is suffering a bad PTSD hallucination. Oh, I see. Kylo has gone doolally. Then he throws his lightsaber away to symbolize he's a changed man. The Empire aren't playing about anymore, and they demonstrate their awesome power by using their new ships to blow up Kijimi. That's Babu and Zori dead then? Nope, she's fine, and she smuggled out Babu in her crotch. Confused and hormonal, Rey becomes a fire starter, a twisted fire starter. And then we get this great hypocritical exchange from Ghost Luke Skywalker, looking like the dude from The Big Lebowski.
A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect.
Yeah, Rey, show some respect. This whole scene is nothing but backpedaling from Ryan's character assassination in The Last Jedi. Luke acts as Rey's motivational ghost and tells her how special she is. Not like she hasn't heard that a million times already. Luke then tells her what she must do, because Rey has no real initiative of her own. People just tell her where to go and what to do. He also tells her to take his family lightsaber and Leia's secret lightsaber to Exegol. Why does she need 2 lightsabers? We find out why. It's because because Kylo shows up on Exegol and he threw away his lightsaber, so he needs a new one to do battle. Did Luke foresee this? Can he see the future? Don't think too hard. Look, it's Luke's X-Wing. Remember Luke's X-Wing? Come on, lap it up, you shit munchers. Nostalgia is the only thing keeping this franchise afloat. The rebels gather round for an idea shit and make a plan to take on the Final Order and their megaships.
We need to put some holdo maneuvers. Do some real damage.
Yes, the Holdo maneuver from The Last Jedi. It looked pretty, but it was pretty stupid. Finally, that arse pull is getting addressed.
Come on, that move is 1 in a million.
1 in a million? That makes it even more implausible and absurd. Also, doesn't that make Holdo a massive kamikaze hypocrite?
You have bet the survival of the Resistance on bad odds and put us all at risk?
Ah, fuck it. Move along. More lazy damage control for Ryan's poor writing. In typical Empire fashion, there is a design flaw in the form of a navigation tower. The plan is, if they take it out, the planet-killing ships are buggered because they won't be able to navigate through Exegol's harsh atmosphere. Not only did the Emperor bury ships under ice, but he had them built on a planet that is a bitch to navigate and detrimental to large ships. Genius! Rey activates the Wayfinder and guides the rebels to certain death. Not that it matters if anyone dies. It seems like no one truly stays dead in this franchise, even if they are actually dead. Rey goes to confront Grandpapa Palpatine, while rebels get shot down in the upper atmosphere of Exegol. Pride changes where the navigational tower broadcasts and makes the source his ship. So Finn leads a ground attack on a spaceship. It's supposed to be a heroic cavalry charge, but because they're riding alien horses on top of a spaceship, it looks like an acid flashback. Meanwhile, Rey has a crappy family reunion. Gramps tells her he needs her for sacrificial euthanasia. Rey must kill him so his power and essence can transfer over to her, making Rey the new Empress of the Sith. She outright refuses, but ends up killing him anyway. Yet that doesn't count for some reason. Rebels are getting swatted like flies because this plan was stupid. It looks like things are going south quickly. But Kylo gets a case of penile dementia and forgets his ambitions and lust for power because he wants to lay with Rey. So he appears and descends into Exegol for that sweet British puss. Rey senses this and uses the Force to do kindergarten-level magic tricks. Watch as I make this lightsaber disappear. Ooh, where is it? Kylo, check behind your ears. There it is. Forgetting the cardinal rule of bros before hoes, Kylo kills his not-so-formidable knights, while Rey dispatches goons with ease, as always. Rey and Kylo try and double-team the Emperor, but Grandpa Ghoulie senses they are a dyad in the Force, and seeing a 2-for-1 offer he can't pass up drains the energy from them. Everything is looking hopeless until Lando arrives with a fuckload of reinforcements. I see, Leia calls for aid, no one comes to help, but when Lando calls for aid, everyone shows up like it's a party. They must all be his sex partners, the tubby man-whore. What transpires next is a cluttered mess with ships that look copy-pasted into place. It doesn't look like an epic space battle, but a congested traffic jam. The composition of the scene is visually chaotic, and not in an epic final showdown kind of way. None of this matters, because the Emperor disables them all with Force lightning. Despite the rebels saying they need more people, they really don't. Rey is all they need. In fact, everything has always been about Rey. Rey saves the day, as always. The fleet of ships is redundant. Oh no! Kylo gets thrown to his death! Ah, nope. Just another fake-out. He'll be fine. As Rey's lying on her ass, the power of Star Wars ASMR brings her to life.
Every Jedi who ever lived lives in you.
The Force surrounds you, Rey.
Let it guide you.
Good luck finding work after this film. The power of Jedi Ghosties gives her all the super strength she needs to defeat Palpatine and basically does the work for her. That's what Rey's underdeveloped character arc has come down to after all this time. Her being a receptacle for all these Jedi to get inside. She gets young men in her, old men, ugly men. Hey Qui-Gon, you want in on this? There's plenty of room. Yoda, get your green ghosty ass up in this bitch. We then get this awful moment.
X gon' give it to ya, he gon' give it to ya, X gon' give it to ya, he gon' give it to ya.
Palpy, stop shooting lightning at the lightsaber. You'd have thought you'd learnt your lesson the first time, idiot. Is this the Sith equivalent of stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself? Kaboom! And the Emperor is finally dead. Again, is he dead for real this time? Or is someone gonna cook up another clone thing when a sequel is needed? Rey was too awesome for her own good and has to have a lie down. But Kylo is fine, facing a dilemma of having his own Rey love doll or saving a life. He does one final act of kindness by using Force Heal on her wounded, pride? What did she die of? No physical wound. She overexerted herself is all. The fucking drama queen. Fan service time! Rey passionately kisses Kylo because she loves a father-killing bad boy like a fat kid loves cake. There you go, Reylo fangirls. You got what you wanted. Bad luck, Huxlow fans. You don't get any oily bum fun. Kylo, I assume, gave away his last bit of life to save her, and he evaporates. Rey gets to survive because she's an egregious Mary Sue. Why else? After the Empire has been defeated for the 50th time, there's celebration and hugs all round at the Rebel base. We even get a progressive lesbian kiss. Although they had to cut out the scene with the Clitty Cats for some Asian territories. Damn Disney, you just can't quite get Star Wars to work in Asia, can you? It's still not over. Rey travels to Luke's old homestead on Tatooine for some pandering. It is there Rey buries Leia's and Anakin's lightsaber in the sand. I'm sure he'd really appreciate that.
I don't like sand.
The shitting on the legacy continues as we get this final nail in the proverbial coffin that is the Star Wars franchise.
Who are you?
I'm Rey.
Rey Skywalker.
But you're not a Skywalker. You can't just take the name and have it mean something. You can call yourself Papa Smurf, but it doesn't make it so. You are Emperor Palpatine's granddaughter. She didn't even know Luke that well. She only spent a couple of days living with him, and he was a wanker to her the entire time. Are you stealing his name out of spite? Why are you chuckle-fucks smiling? The Skywalker lineage has been wiped out. The Emperor's bloodline lives on. He's won. The moment Rey queefs out a child, there'll be a cosmic coin toss over if it's a goodie or a baddie, continuing the cycle. Let's hope no one gets into Rey's Sarlacc pit. JJ tries to invoke nostalgia one last time by having Rey stare at the binary stars that Luke gazed at in A New Hope. The two suns has no emotional impact because Ryan used that imagery in The Last Jedi. It also has no real symbolic meaning to Rey. In A New Hope, the two suns showed there was more to Luke's life on a farm. There was a universe out there to explore, a call to adventure. Rey's had her adventure, plus she's stolen all the stuff from everyone else's adventures too. I am Rey, I am the best, the universe bends over backwards for me, fuck everyone else, my hero. What a load of piss! After all this, I reflected on the trilogy and how the characters' arcs have progressed. Finn has no character arc and gets relegated to being a useless whooping dickhead. Whoa! 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 He had potential as a stormtrooper turncoat and is alluded to having possible force powers, but nothing comes of it. I was hoping Poe could have more of a character arc, because for most of the films he's simply a swaggering cock in an X-Wing. He's good at giving orders and being a pilot. That's his character. At the end, he doesn't even get the girl, doesn't even get the boy. You get nothing and like it. I hate to say this, but the most interesting and relatable character was Kylo Ren? I'm not saying that because it's been a while since I've felt the touch of a woman. He's relatable in that he is the most human and flawed character with his own personal conflicts. There is a semblance of depth, and while it's not a staggering amount, when compared to the other poorly written characters, he stands out. He has his own set of ideals and aspirations, shallow as they may be. Years from now, he will be seen as the most memorable character because he's Darth Vader, acting like a petulant teenager. Rey's arc is parental abandonment issues, and she wants off a desert planet because it sucks. And then she gets given a load of free stuff to save the day. That's a story. Boom, done. Let's break for lunch. Everyone else is just background noise. Rise of Skywalker is a low-energy, low-effort mess. The pacing is all over the place and feels very rushed. Here's your CGI spectacle. Now quickly move on to the next set piece. It just goes to show that the name Star Wars is not enough to make a movie automatically good. Because Lucasfilm had no forethought about the direction of these films and constantly switched up directors, we have no great ending to the saga. We have a fast-paced ride that ultimately ends in a sewer of disappointment.
Terrible, just terrible ending to Star Wars. What you got there? Ah, you're going to give me the old screwdriver down the urethra treatment. Huh, and now that feels already. I did watch Rise of Skywalker. Wait! I'm not done with my review. There's the other films I need to cover.
Chapter 1. The Birth and Death of Star Wars. Good old Star Wars. The original trilogy was great fun. It had everything. High adventure, battles between good and evil, with a strong message about the importance of friends and family, albeit with slight incestuous undertones.
My son, I have built him.
It was a monumental success. It was both a financial and cultural hit. The trilogy is iconic to the science fiction genre and has inspired so many people. Lightning in a bottle, some might say. That level of success is hard to replicate. George had made millions in merchandise and had made a name for himself, despite directing other films. It was only a matter of time till he wanted to get involved with Star Wars again. People say George sold out when he made the prequels, but for me, the bad omens started with the remastering shit. A lot had changed in the world of special effects since the first Star Wars film in 1977, and George wanted to test out the latest digital computer effects of the 90s. The original trilogy saw a theatrical re-release, as George decided to meddle with his classics by adding in superfluous crap. Can you honestly say that the original trilogy would have been vastly improved if only there had been more visual clutter? If only R2-D2 had been covered up by more rocks, that would have made it 100 times better. If only there were alien sluts singing, that would have elevated the trilogy to high art like the Sistine Chapel. He didn't stop with this meddling even after the prequels. He would go on to add prequel characters in digitally to the Blu-ray releases as a way of solidifying those cinematic droppings as canon. I tell you, it sets off the Mandela effect something wicked, and it's hard to find copies of the original trilogy without all this extra digital guff and references to the prequels. Oh yes, the prequels. Some fans think the prequels look better in comparison to what Disney's churned out. However, I'd argue they make the same mistakes. They are hampered by bad acting and an over-reliance on special effects. It had badly written dialogue, and it was tonally deaf at times. Much like the Disney films, the prequels rely on references to the original trilogy characters and giving them unneeded backstory. Did we need to know? Darth Vader did a pod race? Or that Yoda fights like he's on meth? Or that Luke Skywalker's mother likes them young? Fans felt let down, and George's credibility as a filmmaker was called into question. I felt sorry for Georgie Porgy. You create a legacy that is loved by millions, but you just can't quite recapture that spark from the original trilogy. In fact, you've started to damage the legacy. I suspect George was burnt out by Star Wars, and that's why he sold it to the
white slavers that take these things.
Even if George had sold off the rights to another company, I think Disney would eventually buy them out too. They are relentless in buying up intellectual properties. With several flicks of a pen, contracts were signed, and the dark times began. After the bad taste left in the mouths of so many fans by George's salty surprise that was the prequels, some believed that, finally, Star Wars was in capable hands. New adventures awaited us, a new, exciting trilogy. Disney would surely make the franchise great again. Yeah, how'd that work out? Chapter 2, The Franchise Awakens. The House of Mouse was in control now, and there would be changes. For starters, who better to reboot the beloved sci-fi franchise other than J.J. Abrams? After all, he had success with the equally popular Star Trek. I guess the Disney executives didn't see Into Darkness. Ugh. Under the guidance of the new president of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, there would be less gore, no sexual slavery, and just playing things safer. Also, there was to be more diversity to appeal to a wider demographic, as well as a female lead for female audiences to get invested in. This is not a bad thing, but due to poor acting and terrible writing, Rey was not the smash hit the company anticipated her to be. Kathleen Kennedy wanted more capable, abrasive, and overconfident female characters. In fact, all Star Wars female characters are now capable, abrasive, and overconfident. It's a very boring, overdone archetype and makes for bad writing. In an attempt to make women more included in the Star Wars universe, you've inadvertently made them all one-dimensional and interchangeable. Same personality, different bodies. Variety is the spice of life, my dears. It wasn't just Rey who was poorly written either. It was everyone else. Under JJ's guidance, characters had development that was either terribly short or non-existent. In Force Awakens, Poe Dameron was made out to be an important character, but then disappears for a good chunk of the film and suddenly reappears later with a flimsy explanation. Han Solo returns, and for some reason his character arc has regressed and he's gone back to being a smuggler with his hairy life partner. It was clear JJ wanted to invoke nostalgia by bringing them back, and thus bringing back a sense of familiarity. JJ relies on the emotional investment that you may already have for the original trilogy and its characters. If Poe dies, you might shrug and say, oh well. But if Chewie or Han dies, then you'll feel something because you've probably grown up with these films and have fond nostalgic memories for these characters. That is where JJ is a hack. He relies too much on your nostalgia and sense of familiarity to keep you entertained. It's the reason why this film is just a reboot of A New Hope, with similar cinematography too. It's a way to play it safe. To understand JJ's methodology, one must look at his adaptation of Star Trek. If you've seen JJ's Star Trek films, well, it's kind of hard to see with all the fucking lens flares, but if you manage to retain your eyesight, you'll know what I'm talking about. The 2009 Star Trek film is a cinematic reimagining of the original TV series and films. Everything is designed to get you to recognize aspects of Star Trek. There's references, aesthetics, and even one of the original actors. The thinking is, these elements will make your brain regress to happy memories and associate those memories with the product you are enjoying in the present. It's the reasoning behind a lot of lazy reboots. But what if you don't have any nostalgic ties to a show from the 60s? JJ's got you covered with spectacle! This formula would transfer over to Star Wars. You get fan service and explosions. But that's the problem. JJ relies too much on visuals and nostalgia. Everything else falls by the wayside. The Force Awakens does a terrible job of getting me emotionally invested in anything else. At the start of Force Awakens, there are innocent people being murdered. There is death and despair, and we're only a couple of minutes into the film. It's a very serious scene. But then, JJ dispels all the drama with shitty quipping.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
The old man gave it to you.
It's just very hard to understand you with all the...
Search him.
All the emotional weight and tension is completely destroyed. Why? Imagine if in the opening scene of A New Hope, after that shootout, Darth Vader approaches Leia in all his intimidating glory and says,
Pull my finger.
Star Wars would have never got a second film. JJ just can't seem to write moments that make you give a shit. 5 planets being destroyed is inconsequential. Who are these people? I couldn't give a fuck. Are they related to the main characters? Make me give a flying fuck, JJ. In A New Hope, Leia lost her home planet. We saw it have an emotional impact, and it was tied to her character in a very meaningful way. She was the princess of that planet, and its death meant her title and position were moot. She now had no friends and family, and it was a pivotal moment for her, plus the start of a new journey. In Episode 7, not 1, but 5 planets get destroyed, and it's a shock, but ultimately has no emotional resonance. It just looks cool. Could at least have Finn say, "No, not that planet. My mama lived there. Now I'm glad I betrayed the First Order." Force Awakens was a shallow film, and in a strange, ironic way, the company that makes theme park rides had created the cinematic equivalent. A simple, flashy ride that made you dizzy and throw up afterwards. Force Awakens left a lot of JJ-style mystery boxes left on the ground, and the film served as a foundation for the new trilogy to launch from. The next film would be an opportunity to expand on the characters, the world, and the mysteries. Didn't pan out that way. Chapter 3: Going Rogue. With the next movie in the trilogy in production, Disney had to maintain the hype and relevance of Star Wars, not to mention the cash flow. Enter Rogue One, a standalone Star Wars story. Well, not quite. It's just the story from the opening crawl of A New Hope. This was directed by Gareth Edwards, who wanted to emphasize the war part of Star Wars. This addition to the franchise was decidedly darker than its predecessors. It had a high kill count, morally ambiguous rebels, and a lot of fan service. With that said, I did appreciate that it was risky, and I must say that the cinematography is great. This film has lovely visuals.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Could have done without the erotic tentacle molestation, but how else are you going to get to the Japanese audience? Rogue One felt like the stakes were inconsequential by virtue of being a prequel. We know the rebels will steal the plans to the Death Star and the big bad weapon will get destroyed eventually. If you like action, there's plenty of it, but the characterization is underdeveloped, so it's a very superficial experience, and you don't care too much when everyone gets thrown into the meat grinder. Everyone dies, the end. Although, I did get a kick out of the children crying in the cinema at all the death on screen, as Gareth reminds them that they live in a cruel, godless world. No happy Ewoks dancing, only death and war. At times, the film was jarring with its use of uncanny valley CGI actors, which were only there for nostalgia point scoring. As much as Rogue One was trying to be mature and dark, it soon becomes a slog, as it's just shootout after shootout. There would have been more despair, supposedly, but Lucasfilm stepped in to rein in the bleakness. There were a lot of reshoots to try and make Rogue One more palatable for audiences, and while that is common in the film industry, you should be wary about the extent of reshoots and why things are being reshot. This would soon become a trend with Disney. To date, Gareth hasn't directed another Star Wars snuff movie or anything else. His last contribution to the franchise was a cameo in The Last Jedi. Chapter 4: Ryan's Ruination. JJ was not directing the next Star Wars movie for some reason, and so the torch was handed to Rian Johnson, who had a different way of doing things. You see, J.J. Abrams likes his mystery boxes. He just loves setting up little mysteries in his stories to get people guessing and anticipating, but also it makes people really invested. At the end of The Force Awakens, there's a plethora of mystery boxes left out there to be opened and enjoyed. Problem was, Ryan was now in charge, so in the middle of the night he snuck downstairs to the stack of mystery boxes and took a shit in each one of them. That is The Last Jedi, as well as it being a platform for Rian Johnson's alien breasts fetish. Rian's modus operandi is he likes to subvert the expectations of the audience and throw out some crazy twists. All well and good, but the thing is, Rian is utterly inept. What Rian does is pull stuff out of his arse at the last minute or does nothing at all, with the audacity to be smug about it like a fart-huffing pseudo-intellectual. We wanted answers to questions from The Force Awakens. What we got was a shit on our dinner plate. Who is Snoke? Big reveal, no one of importance, and easily killed. Who are Rey's parents? Nobody's. Why are the Resistance struggling to get help against a galactic threat? Who cares? But Rian also threw extra spanners in the works. Anyone can be a Jedi now, fuck training and hard work. Ghosts can interact with the real world and cause damage. Because Jedi can teleport a hologram of themselves across the universe to do battle and rip off Escape from LA, because that is a thing now. Just like how you can hyperspace ram a ship into another ship. No time to really elaborate on these new rules for the Star Wars universe. They are quickly pulled out of Rian's bag of tricks to shock and amaze, but feel more like arse-pull contrivances because Rian kept writing himself into a corner, although he would later claim his bad writing was clever subversions. Subversion works if there is something you are actually subverting. If your subversion leads to nothing, then the audience comes away with nothing. It's a very hollow experience. There was a moment where he truly could have done it, and that was when Kylo was offering Rey a place by his side. If she had taken his hand, that would be a shock. It would have really mixed things up a bit. But no, Rey has to be a goody two-shoes. The bad writing also extends to the dialogue, which is horribly clunky.
No, we are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
This line in particular always rubbed me the wrong way.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
It's worded like some stupid petty tweet. You know what they say, write what you know, eh, Rian? Still, one positive thing I can say about Mr. Johnson is he is a fantastic job creator. Many a YouTuber have started their career ripping into The Last Jedi, and the fallout from Rian's pettiness has provided content for many channels. Even my own channel owes its success to this smug bugger. So, thanks, Rian. Please, stop making movies. Force Awakens left some very clear story prompts, and Rian disregarded them and made an awful bloated movie that would essentially destroy the foundations of the new trilogy and split the fan community even more. Chapter 5, A New Low with Solo. Disney continued their strategy of a new Star Wars movie every year with a standalone movie about Han Solo before he became the infamous smuggler. The whole production suffered with behind-the-scenes calamity as Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were directing. However, Kathleen Kennedy and her cronies at Lucasfilm didn't like what they had produced so far. Sod creative freedom and budgets because Kathy knows best. So the directors were booted off, and a majority of the film reshot at great expense. Solo is one of the most expensive films ever made, and it did not see any returns on that investment. Safe and sensible, Ron Howard was brought on, which was a terrible choice. I don't think in my entire life I've ever heard someone say, "I'm really looking forward to seeing that new Ron Howard film." As a result, we got a badly lit and badly acted snore fest. The whole film was a terrible attempt to give Han Solo more unnecessary backstory. We needed to know every minute detail about him, how he got his name, where he got his blaster, his ship, his friends, his cockpit dice, how he did the Kessel Run, his first gay experience. None of it mattered. The character was not enough of a draw to bring in the viewers, and it flopped. It cost Disney millions upon millions, as theater seats were left bumless, because for many fans, the story of Han Solo was complete in itself during the original trilogy. Plus, there was no Harrison Ford,
and instead we got a talentless imposter. But this blow to Disney's profits was a sign that Star Wars was not the big money-making franchise they had hoped for. Chapter 6. The Fandom Menace. Hardcore Star Wars fans can be charitably described as loyal and passionate, while some can be uncharitably described as neurotic man-children. So it always amazes me at how much goodwill Disney is able to destroy with the fans on a continuing basis. The first kick in the nuts was when Disney denounced the extended universe and decreed it was no longer canon. Disney's new media and changes were absolute. Decades of extra material was deemed not their style, which made fans raise their eyebrows even more when they actually read the new books and comics they were peddling under the new official canon. Any criticism of Disney's new material was met with scorn by Lucasfilm staff, mostly in the form of Twitter spats. More so as the films had fans divided, and petty creatives and directors like Ryan couldn't help antagonizing the fan base. Furthermore, Star Wars started becoming very politicized and saw Star Wars creators getting on their soapboxes to turn everything into an online culture war. This made the community even more divisive. To counteract the negative response from the fans, the Disney shills came out in full force to defend the company and the crap films with execrable clickbait articles containing even more polarizing opinions. Why the Star Wars The Last Jedi backlash is a good thing. Why blowing up the Star Wars expanded universe was a good thing. 6 ways Star Wars The Last Jedi broke the franchise, and why that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Why, that's a good thing. It's a good thing. That's good. Good thing. That's good thing. That's good. That's good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Good thing. Good. That's good. Good thing. Good thing. Make it stop. Suffice to say, this wasn't helping Disney get back into some fans' good graces and made Disney seem very out of touch with what Star Wars was all about. Disney was also struggling to captivate the Asian market with their films, and so Western fans were their only hope at making serious shekels. It was very clear that fans were cash cows, and Disney were quite happy to slap the Star Wars label on any old crap. This mindset would also take on the form of an expensive and shitty theme park. Behold, Galaxy's Edge. When you think of Star Wars, you think epic adventure across the stars, not an overpriced strip mall, unless you're a Disney shareholder. Attendance was poor, and for good reason. There wasn't much to do. It just sold overpriced crap. It had one ride, and even then, it was a cramped cockpit video game. A theme bar that sold cuisine that just wanted to tear up your intestinal tract. What else was there left to do, other than harass the Rey impersonators? The whole thing was an expensive mistake, and still, Disney struggled to make bank off their multi-billion-dollar purchase. Merchandise wasn't selling as much as they'd hoped. Star Wars is famous for its multi-billion-dollar toy sales, and yet, under Disney, the franchise struggled to shift lumps of plastic. It was a massive waste. Then there was the whole debacle with Star Wars Battlefront 2 having exploitative microtransactions. But that's what you get when you share the Star Wars license with Electronic Arts, winner of the Golden Pooh Award for Worst Company in America. Disney's new comics and canon novels were also not gelling with the fans, old and young alike. Couldn't blame them, as the writing in some novels is repugnant.
And now, a dramatic reading of Star Wars Join the Resistance, Escape from Vodran by Professor Albert Tosspot.
Poe himself officiated the wedding of his friends. If he felt the same rumbling in his guts that everyone else did as the ceremony proceeded, he was too cool a customer to show it. But he must have, for when it came time for him to ask if Snap Wexley took Kare Kun to be his wife, he only got as far as, "Do you, Snap Wexley, take Kare Kun to be your..." before his insides erupted in the most atmosphere-ripping flatulence the galaxy ever heard. Everyone laughed.
because they sympathized. Their insides were doing somersaults as well. But Poe Dameron was always cool, and he began again, asking, "Do you, Snap Wexley, take Kare-kun to be your wife?" Managing to get the whole sentence out that time. Snap was not so lucky. "Aye," he began, and what followed was a four-alarm fart that lasted longer than the ceremony itself had thus far. A wave of laughter washed over the crowd, and then again when Kare, in disbelief, yelled at her soon-to-be husband, and then let out a deep, meteoric toot herself. She slapped both hands over her face, completely embarrassed, as Snap, Poe, and everyone else just let laughter rain. Because soon, everyone who'd eaten the crackling pudding was sounding off like firecrackers, tooting and honking and letting loose with all kinds of gassy exclamations. It was mortifying and uproarious all at once. Mattis stood beside Joe, who emitted a high-pitched "weet" that was unlike anything anyone had ever heard. After it happened, Joe glared at Mattis as if to say, "This is your fault." His anger was undercut, however, by another flatulent bellow, and then peals of laughter that he just couldn't help. None of them could. Amid the squeals of laughter and clamour of gut-ripping gas, Snap and Kare were married. A.G., Oddie, and some of the others struck up a happy musical beat, and everyone on the Resistance base laughed and danced and farted late into the night. I think that sums up Disney's Star Wars quite well. A bunch of loud, obnoxious farts. Chapter 7, Overdrawn at the Bank of Creativity. The Star Wars franchise has been around for nearly half a century, and it makes you wonder if we'll ever be sick of these films. But also, how much longer can you rely on recycling stuff from the original trilogy? There isn't really anything memorable to these new films. There are no standout moments that really define the new trilogy. In the original trilogy, you had moments like Luke Skywalker staring at two suns. "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi," destroying the Death Star for the first time. The unforgettable "I am your father" scene. Slave Princess Leia strangling Harvey Weinstein, and much more. The only memorable scenes in the new trilogy are Han Solo getting killed off and Luke Skywalker milking alien titties. The only reason those moments stick out is because it has the original trilogy characters being assassinated both literally and metaphorically. The new trilogy relies on reusing scenes and moments from the old trilogy to evoke nostalgia, but can't create anything of real substance on its own. A major failing of the new trilogy and prequels is callbacks and an unwillingness to cut ties from Luke Skywalker so they can branch out into their own thing. Probably because it's risky, but it holds back the trilogy. As far as I'm concerned, the story of Anakin and Luke and bloody Death Stars is done and dusted. Move on. There is a huge galaxy to explore and potential for interesting characters. But due to the mishandling of the franchise, we still have Chewbacca and R2-D2 popping up. And look, it's the fucking Millennium Falcon again. The franchise keeps going back to the Empire and Rebels, duking it out. It gets stale seeing the same old X-Wings and TIE fighters doing the same old fights. You have a galaxy filled with monsters and mobsters. So many possibilities. Take some bloody risks. Why not have the Rebels and Empire join forces, put aside their differences to fight a bigger threat? Both J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson drink deep from the well of postmodernism, and are all about subversion and deconstruction of Star Wars and traditional values. As a result, the Star Wars universe has had its core hollowed out. Princess Leia and rogue Han Solo had a passionate romance, a love that would endure for all time through good and bad. Abrams gets his hands on the trilogy, and they become a distant divorced couple with a school shooter for a son. A once hopeful hero who will help save the galaxy becomes a bitter, jaded old fart. On top of all that, all his accomplishments and struggles were for nothing. The Empire was never really destroyed, and you become irrelevant to the granddaughter of your nemesis. Every Star Wars movie before the Disney acquisition is just kind of ruined now. There's no finality to anything either. Dead characters don't stay dead and buried. Everything just repeats itself. Empire and Rebels, aspects of the original trilogy being reused ad nauseum in lieu of decent writing. If there is a future for Star Wars, it will be more of the same. Even more depressing is that with advancements in computer effects, the original characters from the trilogy will be brought back from the dead over and over again until entropy consumes the universe. Oh well, Chapter 8, The Demise of Skywalker. Is it any wonder that Rise of Skywalker ended up bad? There were clear signs from the start that this was destined for disappointment. Colin Trevorrow was originally put on the project as director and writer. In typical Lucasfilm form, he got booted off by Kathleen Kennedy and her vague creative differences. This type of behavior goes to show how badly mismanaged things are behind the scenes. Tried and true, but also profit-making, J.J. Abrams was brought in to finish the trilogy. A trilogy he didn't entirely plan out. JJ seemed reluctant to return to Star Wars. Can't blame him. He had to clean up Rian Johnson's mess. It's like having a housemate tell you he's done a hangover poo in your toilet and you've got to unclog it by hand. For a while, there was very little marketing, and what information about production that came out was concerning. There had been a lot of reshoots, which is always a bad sign, and rumors that test audiences weren't impressed by the film and its ending. What snippets of hype that did come out were very underwhelming, like the poster for the film, which looked like a PlayStation 2 game, and not a good one. Lucasfilm were very cagey about what they showed of Rise of Skywalker, but eventually they released a trailer, and it confirmed what we feared. Nostalgia and contrivance galore, not to mention it confirmed the unbelievable story leaks. From interviews with cast members, it seemed like they were trying very hard to hide their disappointment with what they starred in. I think deep down, they knew fans would not enjoy this film.
What was your reaction to the end of the movie? But don't use words, okay?
It runs the risk of the Game of Thrones syndrome, whereby there's no way that you can please all the people all the time because people are so emotionally invested in these in this story.
I think Disney put a gun to Richard E. Grant's head after this, and he went on to oversell it.
I cheered, I shouted, I fist pumped the air, I cried. I'm so proud to be in it, and I can't wait for you to see it.
I did cheer, Richard, when the movie finally ended. I cried, too, as I wasted good money on a ticket. I wasn't the only one left unimpressed, and negative reviews started to pour in. Many an astute internet sleuth noticed strange goings-on with review aggregate site Rotten Tomatoes. It appeared that user reviews had been frozen, so the film appeared positive. I'm sure that's one of those conspiracy theories. Like, why would the CEO of the site, Paul Yanova, a former Disney digital executive, collude with Disney to make them look good? It just doesn't make any sense. It was clear as day. The Rise of Skywalker was crap, and the Disney trilogy ended as a farce. The cast will continue to get work after all this. Already, Oscar Isaac is attached to the June 2020 movie, so he's not done with sci-fi. Adam Driver will keep getting angry acting gigs. God knows why.
But a day I wake up and I hope you're dead.
And Daisy Ridley will continue to have a suspiciously itchy nose.
And the way that the overwhelmed has it made you one date night?
Stop it. Get some help.
As for me, I'm done with Star Wars. There are more bad Star Wars films than there are good, and I don't see this pattern changing. And no, I won't watch the Star Wars animated crap with helicopter lightsabers. I like the original Star Wars trilogy, but anything afterwards seems like it's desperately trying to emulate its success. The story of Luke and Darth Vader, Empire and Rebels, is done and dusted for me. While Disney owns the intellectual property, they will continue to make bad decisions and keep dragging an iconic franchise down. I'll watch the OT if it's on television at Christmas, but Star Wars is now a fond memory. Had a great adventure, but a good adventure needs to end. It did many years ago. Why spoil it all by continuing? Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. And it was great. Oh, you can fuck off!
Yeah. You should definitely check out Generation Kill. The book is also good if you're into...
What the fuck? Why is this prick still alive? If you want something done, you gotta do it yourself.
Do your worst, rodent. I've said my piece.
Oh! What the? Huh?
Yeah, I'm a Force ghost. See? See how unsatisfying that is?
No, this can't be.
See you around, kid.
No! No, god damn it! No!
He's gone, Andy. I'm gonna go clear out the wine cellar. Maybe you can continue making the videos. Yeah, I'll continue Smack Talk for the Dead Professor. I'm going to make it into the best Minecraft Let's Play channel the world has ever seen. Hey, what did I miss? Oh, nuts. Chin up, Andy. It's good to be back. Go fire up the laptop, and I'll get us some ice cream. How about we watch something that isn't Star Wars? Yay! Can we watch The Joker? Sure, it's not a bad film. How about Parasite? If you don't mind subtitles. Can we watch some anime? Don't push your luck.
Enough of that. Can't play anymore due to copyright reasons. Andy, take it away.
There. Thanks for watching, folks. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for being patient, and keep being awesome.
Put some dinosaurs in the next Star Wars film. Who cares if it doesn't make sense? The franchise is a fucking mess right now. Might as well go all in.
We've all done lots of storytelling, but this is unique.